Good morning. Beautiful people. Beautiful people. You guys know that song? Uh, um, I like how I always start with, I never plan these. Not yet, anyways. Who knows if I will at some point. But I'll usually have some sort of thought that comes through, or like a conversation I've had with someone else in the past will be brought up, and I'll kind of go deeper into it and then just feel called to share. And so I just rolled out of bed. And I don't know why this conversation came to me, but when it comes to, I had a conversation with a coworker in regards to like it being a lot more difficult to choose the light than it is to choose the dark. Like choosing the dark is easy. Choosing our shadow side is easy. Like it doesn't really take any effort. And we were kind of talking about that a little bit. And he was wondering if like maybe it takes just as much effort. And I personally don't think that it does. I don't think it takes hardly any effort. It doesn't take effort in the same way. It is not as difficult. And that's why we see so much chaos, so much quote unquote evil, is because people are battling their own internal demons, but as opposed to battling them internally where the fight actually is, they choose to battle them externally. It's like goes back to, you know, that whole high school thing with like bullies, not even just high school, but bullies in general, right? Like what do people say? We say bullies tend to pick on people because they feel bad about themselves. And that's true in so many different areas of life. It's not just high school, it's not just bullies. It's like when people, period, are judging others, when people are putting others down, when people are critiquing others in such a critical way, it's because they themselves are struggling internally. But as opposed to fighting that internal battle and those internal demons, they choose to do the fighting externally, right? Which doesn't lead you back, which doesn't lead you to the light, which doesn't lead you to yourself, which doesn't lead you to your higher self, which doesn't connect you to God, source, the universe, spirit, like whatever word you want to use. Like the battle is only inside. And so it's almost effortless, because when we say it's easier, when I'm saying it's easier to choose the darkness over the light, that's because it's a lot easier to blame all your problems on someone else or something else or on the world, to play the victim, than it is to look inside and be like, and get uncomfortable, because it's not even just looking inside and doing the internal work. Like you got to get uncomfortable when you go inside. You have to also be willing to acknowledge that dark side that some people will play on, right? You got to be able to acknowledge that those demons are there and that they exist within you. They are part of you. I want to show you guys something really quick. I picked this up. Isn't this so cool? I picked that up when I was down visiting family over the holidays this last December. And I picked it up because on my car ride down, I finally had this realization. It's not just about, when you're embracing and accepting your shadow, it's not just about embracing and accepting your shadow. It's about loving that part of yourself as well. Not just acknowledging that it's there and accepting it, but loving it as well. And so I had that realization while I was driving down. I had a really dark thought come across my brain. And my first initial reaction was to kind of be like, oh my God, like, do other people think like that? Like, that's so, it's so dark. And I'm kind of laughing at myself. And then in that same line of thought, yeah, I was going to say that same breath, in that same line of thought, for the first time, I was like, you know what? It's dark, but who cares? I love that side of me as well, because it's all a part of me and it's all okay. And in that moment, like my entire crown chakra was like vibrating, you guys, or tingling. I don't know what word you want to use. I could just feel it. And I was like, had this whole revelation around not just accepting that it's there, but loving that part of you as well. That's a difference. That's a key difference too. There's a difference between loving that part of yourself and just being like acknowledging it and accepting that it's there, and then still like putting like shaming yourself when those things come up, when your dark side comes up. You know what I'm saying? Where was I going with that? Why did I show you guys that? But it's just, yeah, it's just a lot easier to act on. It's easier overall to blame your problems on the external. Because what that does is, because what you're feeling is, shame and some sort of like part of yourself that you don't love, that you don't accept. Whether it's like your body, whether it's your career, whether it's what you think you can achieve in this life, whether it's, you name it, whatever is happening internally. If someone is a bully, if someone is mean, if someone is just kind of like puts others down, and some people do this consciously, right? That's why we have people like evil people in this world, quote unquote, so to speak. Evil people, they are evil, but they're lost. They're lost. It's just so much easier. Sorry, y'all, my brain is kind of trailing off right now, but also not sorry, because I'm a freaking human, so get over it. But what you're doing is what bullies, mean, evil people, whatever you want to say, are doing when they're putting others down is they're building themselves up. That's what I was saying. Thank you. They're building themselves up, right? They're putting others below them so that they can feel better about themselves, right? Because that's what you're doing. You're comparing yourself to everyone else's lives and everyone else's way of being. And you're not feeling good about who you are and how your life is and who your core essence. So how do you resolve that? Through the dark. You put others down so that it makes you feel better. And because a lot of people haven't done the internal work, it does work. You actually affect people and you actually put them down. And it can successfully, quote, like build you up in the moment, even though really you're still feeling like, shit internally. That's why it's so much harder. Because that's easy. Anybody can do that. It's easy to do external work like that to build yourself up. By external, I mean putting other people down or blaming your problems and everything else on the exterior world. When in reality, it's all internal. And that's the only place you need to go to do the work. But that's hard to acknowledge because you also have to stop playing the victim. You also have to, like I said, be willing to accept the dark parts of yourself and incorporate and love those parts of yourself. And then you also have to do a ton of healing. You have to do all the unlearning of all the programs that we've been brought up on, whether in our family and society. It's going to be both, so family and societal norms, and just all these different ideas that were put in our heads, these programs from a very young age. And doing all the unlearning for that, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. The healing journey is some of the most difficult work, I would say, at least to a certain point. It takes a lot. And then at some point, I think it becomes easier, it becomes flowing, and it becomes more like just a fun journey that you're on. But in the beginning, it's a lot. And I'm sure some of you, I'm not sure who my channel's for, so I don't know if I've got people who are currently starting their journeys, and if this is you, then be ready for that, because that's how the journey begins. It is tumultuous, it is rough, it is chaotic, it feels frustrating. But at some point, it starts to become an ebb and flow, and it starts to become easier, so to speak. Not saying like you're not going to go through things, but the way that you perceive and go through those things is going to change. It's going to be different. It's going to be done with ease, with acceptance, with more grace, because you'll have learned to love yourself in different ways, in more complete ways. But choose the light. Choose the light. It's worth the journey, because the darkness is just a low vibrational, yucky area, you guys. And it's honestly, it's flat and it's boring and it's stagnant. Like, there's nothing good for you in the darkness in the long term. And choosing to be in the darkness is just going to continue to bring your life farther and further down, because you can't get anywhere by just continuously putting others down, putting the world down, and not doing the work. Like, it won't lead you anywhere. Internally, like, you're never going to feel that inside, that internal gratification. That's why we have so many different, like, celebrities and people who keep striving for more and more and more. And like, we have greed in this world with the money thing, you guys. It's just like the greed is fueled by an internal lack. People are internally lacking love and acceptance for themselves, and they're seeking that external source to fill that void that's within them, and they're never going to fill it. They're never going to fill it. That's why you have artists like Will Smith, and I think it's hilarious, because anytime I mentioned to anyone that Will Smith was coming out with a new album, everyone was, I mean, it makes sense. It makes so much sense. It's because we're projecting, and because we don't see other people as human oftentimes if we're not healing ourselves. But anytime I would bring up his new album, everyone would just be like, oh, the slapper, you know, some reference to him hitting Chris Rock. But it's just like, and every time I'm just like, these folks. Because it's so telling. It shows so much about how much you accept and love yourself. Because, like, I remember when I saw that happen, like, I was a Will Smith fan, right? Like, as a kid, his Lost and Found album, I was obsessed with. And so when that first happened, I was just like, oh, God. And then, but I didn't, like, put him down and criticize him like a lot of the world and people did. I was just like, what is going on in this man's life? What is he going through right now? Like, there's clearly something that's going on that's causing this type of behavior, especially from someone like him who's, you know, morally, like, holds himself very high. That's very out of character for him. You know, I'm not like, but like, some people are so quick to, you know, I'm never going to forgive him, which is why I love his album, and in the intro to his new album, you guys, which is a very spiritually inclined album, and talking about kind of like just all of these kind of different concepts and spirituality. If you know, you know. But the intro is just basically a monologue of him saying all the things, all the shit that people are going to talk, and like, oh, he needs to take another year to untangle some stuff. Who does he think he is? He's only relevant still because of his kids. Him and Jada are crazy. They got so many issues. Like, just like all the stuff people are going to say. And so beautiful. So beautiful. But where was I going with that? Will Smith. I guess I was just saying that's why I love how he decided to come back, and he's like took this, you know, spiritual route where he's accepting and acknowledging all those parts of himself, that he does have that dark side in him as well. But that doesn't make him any less. That doesn't make him any less human, any less worthy. Because that's who we are. We're all just human. At the end of the day, if we make bad choices, we gotta own that behavior. But it doesn't just mean we're like just like, you know, a shitty person or destroyed for the rest of our lives if you were someone in the spotlight. And that's he talked about in an interview as well. It's just how, you know, he has all of these things, and you get to the top, and you know, but then you're still feeling like you need something, and it's because that something is internal. It's internal. So when you see all these different celebrities, politicians trying to do all these things, buy all these things, create all these things, get their asses to freaking space. They're not doing that because they're like, they want to do it for, like, because it's like drives them. Like, they're doing it because they're trying to fill a void. They're trying to fill an internal void. And they think that this achievement will give that to them. And they think, you know, having this much more money will do that for them, or buying this thing will do that for them, or becoming the freaking unofficial aide to the president of the United States will do that for them, and they can buy their way in. It's just like, these guys don't need more power, more money, more things to create more anything. They need to go inside themselves. That's why you see some people, like, I'm gonna bring up this again because it's like going back to like politics, which is the fucking world. Sorry, but not sorry. You know, like we see, the president has always been like insecure about his hands, and it's an insecurity, right? You see, Mr. Musk, and like has all these insecurities as well, and like pushes back on certain things and creating fake accounts. I don't even know. I'm not even online anymore at this point. But it's just like, those are all internal things. And these people are trying to buy their way to the top. These people are trying to search for validation that they're not going to get because they have to give it to themselves. And that's one of the bones I have to pick when it comes to traditional therapy, because I don't agree with the notion, because what therapy does oftentimes is they're just very validating, which I think has a useful place, especially if you're in like a situation where maybe you don't have that, you don't have the ability to discern like whether or not you're in the right or wrong, because maybe you're in like a toxic relationship or something in that regard, where you're being gaslit and maybe manipulated. So you're like, wait, am I the problem? And so validation in that sense, I see, can be really helpful. But at a certain point, I feel like that's where therapy is going, like, is kind of enabling. And it's like, because at some point, a lot of therapeutic approaches offer just a lot of validation, like just talk therapy and validating. And if you're, you know, oh, I can see why you would feel that way, and yeah, that must hurt. And it's just like, we don't need validation from anybody. Like, the validation has to come from within in order to truly heal. And so getting it from someone else, you're still not really giving it to yourself, right? Because you're coming from somebody else first. And so I think therapy can help you, obviously, in so many different ways. But at the end of the day, I think it's lacking in a lot of different areas. Not just because it doesn't incorporate like energetic work, but also, like I said, the validation aspect is to kind of like propping you up when you need to be able to prop yourself up. And the only way you're going to prop yourself up is by reaching deep down and doing the deep internal work and acknowledgement of your shadows. And a lot of times I feel like we also, maybe I'm wrong because I haven't done like a ton of therapy, but I was a psychology major, and it feels like, and just in society in general, and like every different way in which we turn, like we're always demonizing the shadow side, right? Which is why I love that photo, because it's an incorporation showing that we are both. You can't separate the two. You must incorporate the two and actively choose to call upon the side that you need in the moment, right? Because the shadow side protects your light, right? Without the shadow, we would just be light. And if we're just the light, we're prone to getting hurt, manipulated, abused. That's why you need the shadow to hold boundaries. You need the shadow to come to your defense when necessary. And that's what's like kind of tricky in some regard. It's like you have to be willing to call upon the shadow and not let it dictate and control you. right? Even something as simple as like arrogance, right? That could be seen as like a shadow aspect. But if we're calling upon arrogance because we're feeling very insecure, um, we have to give like a speech, let's say, you call upon arrogance. One might call it confidence, but confidence is in the light. And if that's not really working for you because you're feeling insecure, you can activate that other part of you where it's just like, yeah, I'm the shit, I'm the best mentality, right? Your arrogance. And that is a form of confidence, like the opposite side, like the shadow side, like the light part of, like that. There's a duality within that. So confidence is the light, arrogance is the shadow, right? And sometimes you have one, and sometimes you need to call upon the other. And that goes with every single shadow and light thing. You can call upon different parts of yourself when needed, right? Like I'm a super nice. This is what I told my friend. I was like, people think I'm so sweet and so nice and so kind and so loving and so giving, and I am. But like what people might not recognize right away unless you force me to, not force me, but require me to call upon my darker parts, is like I hold just as much darkness as I do light. And so, and that's the thing. I think the kinder the person is, the more in control and they are of their shadow, which is in a sense more intimidating than just acting on the shadow alone, because when you're in control of the shadow, it comes off with this, it's like a fierceness, right? Because it's not just like an unhinged shadow where you're kind of like acting irate and you're like not really even in tune with what you're letting your shadow lead you, and you're not leading your shadow. It's like this very controlled manner, almost like a I would say almost like a psychopath or a serial killer. You're just like very, but like they're not really. I don't know. We're not gonna get into that, but it's just like this very calculated. Yeah, it's very calculated use of the shadow, which in my opinion is more daunting and scary than like someone who's unhinged and is not in control of their shadow. It's more intimidating and holds a different breath to it. Anyways, um, I've got my pretty little stones here. Yellow jasper. I believe this one's called Mukaiti. This lady just put it in my bag when I was shopping. She's like, you need this one too. Yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. So don't chase the dark. Utilize the dark. Chase the light. Do the healing. Accept. Embrace. Love. And call upon the shadow. That will lead you where you want to go. The only place to do the work is internally. There's nowhere else to go. And at some point, you might feel stagnant. And I really advise people, if there are any newbies to the spiritual journey here, I would really advise you, if you're not already, to make sure you're looking at chakras and energetic work. There's a book called Chakras and Shadow Work. There is different areas of shadow work tied to each chakra. And continue moving through those. And if you read through something and you don't really understand how it's related to you or how it pertains to your life, look deeper, because it's there. It's there. And it's probably the thing you're hiding from. All right. Well, I think that's all I have to say. I haven't posted a video for a hot minute, I feel like. Yeah, I hope you guys have a great, beautiful, fabulous, wonderful day, night, evening, morning, whenever it is that you're watching this. And I will talk to you guys soon. Okay, I love you guys.